Class. Today I would like to demo how one can write a function and how one can start writing a function. So in order to explain the function better, I would like to go ahead and start with an exercise where we're going to go ahead and create a function. The first thing we have to do is, of course, we have to launch our Management Studio 2010 and say new project. And we're gonna provide a name for our project. We call it how to create a function. Okay, it's like okay. Next, as usual, we're gonna use the empty project. The next step will be to go under Resource, Highlight, Add a new item. And we're going to select C++ file. And we're going to enter here a name, call it function add. Good. So here the first thing I think we're going to do is we're going to write a simple program where actually it adds some value first. Then we're going to convert that to a function. So this way we can see the difference between a function, a regular program that does an addition, and a function that does the addition for us. So let's start with that. Let's include our library. We're going to use the using. So we have the input statement, standard input. We're going to include our standard output, and we're going to include our end of line. Good. So now we do see that here we have an issue where the compiler somehow complains, not the compiler, but actually the Management Studio 2010. So we are missing something. So as you can see, we are missing a column. So if we enter that, the error message disappears. So we're in good shape here. Now the next thing we need to do is we're going to call our main function, which is always required. And here, let's close that. Let's put a comment here. Main function starts. And at the end of the bracket, we'll add another comment. End of the main. It's always a good habit to have, no matter how simple your program is. So as your program gets complicated, it will be easier to troubleshoot. The more comments you have, the better it's going to be for you to reference to and resolve the problem. All right, in this program, what we're going to do is we're going to write a program that's going to ask the user to enter two value, and then it adds the results and print it on the screen. So here we're going to say to the user, please enter a value. Close, right? Then we're going to go standard input to accept the input from the keyboard and transfer it to the input variable. Now here, as you can see, Visual Studio 2010 is complaining with a red mark, as you can see here, that there's some problem. So I think you already guessed it. The problem is that we need to declare a variable as usual. So in this case, we're going to use it as int. We're going to call it input. So now So we have input, actually we're going to name it input 1, and here we're going to call it the same thing, input 1. Please enter value. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. Instead of typing, we're going to just kind of highlight these two statements. We're going to say right click, copy, and we're going to just paste it below, and we're going to say here input 2, and then of course we have to declare as a variable input 2, so we can use the input from the keyboard and substitute it and transfer it to input 2 variable. So in this case we have two variables that request from the users, and now we are done. Let's test this thing. So we're gonna run the program, Control F5 at the same time, and say okay, yes, to make sure this compiles and run. So here we're prompted to enter a value. So we're gonna enter 1, 2, I'm sorry, and 2. So it seems like it's working, but it doesn't add the total for us. So what are we gonna do? So we need to declare another variable here. We're going to call it input int total, right? And then we need to add this to value, right? Total equals input 2 or input 1 plus input 2. Then the next thing we have to do is we have to also display the results on the screen. So we're going to say the total is, and the variable total, end of line, and let's run our program. Control F5 again. Let's see what happens. So print a value, enter a value, sorry, 1, total is 2. Excellent. So this works. So this is kind of a basic program, very general, simple program that shows you how we can declare your variables, how we can ask the users to enter value and then substitute the value to the different variables, 1 and 2, input 1 and 2, and then add the total and display it on the screen. So now, in this case, we would like to write a function to do this calculation for us. So the beauty of the function is once you write it, you can use it all the time. You don't have to rewrite all these statements, the calculation statements again. Again, this is a simple function, but there are some complex function that does more than this. But the objective of this tutorial is to show you how you can create a function. All right. So this is what we have as a regular program. Now we're going to change this to a function. So what are we going to do here? So the first thing we have to do is we have to declare the function prototype. So we're going to call our function here, say int, we're going to call it calculate total. Right? In this case, this function accepts two inputs. We're going to call it A and B. Okay. Okay, that's how we're going to call this. This is our function prototype. Okay. Next, so hold on a thing we need to minor. We're going to cut this. It should have been before this. So let's put it. Here we go. Function prototype always goes before the main function. Just to remember, otherwise you're going to compile our problem. Errors. Okay. So here we go. We have our function prototype. Now the next thing what we need to do is we need to write our function header and body. So that can go here. We're going to do the same thing, input. Actually, instead of typing it, we can copy this statement from here and go down here, paste it. So this is a now. So we have our function header, and then function header, we need to add the body, something inside the function, so it does some calculation for us, right? That's the reason we're writing a function. Now look at this. It's complaining there's an error, right? Expected a declaration. So we need to get rid of that semicolon, because we need to add information within the function to produce some results for us. So those are small tips that you have to remember when you're writing your function. So what we have done is we took our existing program, we added a function prototype, and our objective is to remove this, the total input and plus input, and convert it to a function. So in this case, the objective is to the function receives two inputs and then returns and adds the value of this a and b and returns a value back. So in this case, return, and what we can do is we say a plus b. So, and let's go, we don't need the total input anymore here, so we can get rid of this guy. So let's comment it out for, we don't need this, I'm going to comment it out. So you can see the difference. And here what we can do is we're going to say, we actually, instead of total, we're going to call the function itself. So what is our function? Our function is calculate total, and we are passing two parameters to it, right? The input 1 and input 2. So the program runs as the user enter a value for input 1 and input 2, and all those, the values of input 1 and input 2 are passed to this function. Input 1 goes under A, input 2 goes B, and then it adds these two values and basically returns and prints the total. Instead of doing this way, now we have a function. Okay, so let's go run this and see what happens. All right, 1, 2, we should, so yeah. So in this case, as you can see, it accepted two inputs from the user and then call the function and calculate the total and return the value, which is 3. All right, so this function is actually called pass by value function. And it accepts two inputs. And this is the function prototype, it has to go before the main function. And this is the header, the function header. And this is the body of the function. Again, this is a simple function that shows us how we can write pass by value function with two inputs, two variables. So I hope you find this tutorial helpful with your assignment, and have a nice day.